Hey everyone, I hope you've had a good week. As always, my name is Jake with Jake Trades and Invests. And on this channel, I do a weekly recap of what's happened in the markets as well as what I think will happen in the short to medium term going forward. So, with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump into our charts and we'll start as always with gold. So, here we are looking at the daily chart of gold. Again, gold has had another strong week. Looks like we're starting to top out around this 2,900 level. I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of pull back a little bit in the coming week, kind of let these moving averages catch up a little, just to build a little more momentum before we head higher. In the short term, I think 3,000 is a logical target, and it looks like we're on track to get there. But I would expect maybe a little bit of a pause in the coming week or two for gold. Looking at silver, we did break out of our resistance zone over the last week or two. Again, same as gold, I would expect a little bit of a pullback. It looks like we're kind of already doing that. So maybe down in this 3150, possibly even down to the 31 level, and retest the resistance zone here before heading higher. But I think overall silver looks good to head higher in the short to medium term, once we can find some support and find some buyers to step in. For platinum, we came up and touched our resistance zone and have come back down. Like the other metals, we might hang around in this $1,000 area for the next week or two and build a little bit of support, and let the buyers come back in and push this thing higher. But I do think in the short to medium term, platinum looks good and has some momentum behind it to break out of this resistance zone before ultimately heading higher. On to copper. Copper, we had a really strong week this week. Nothing but upside so far this week. I do think we might see a little bit of a pause like the other metals before heading higher. And like I said, the price may pause, let the moving averages catch up a little bit. And we did break out of this zone, so it's possible we'll pull back and retest before heading higher. I did trade copper this week, and I caught this move from the breakout up to near the top here. But let me put the fibs on. This is what I was looking at this week. If we go roughly here, you can see we retested the zone overhead here, pulled back down towards these 50% retracement area. We could see the buyers stepping in with some of these long wicks on the bottom here before launching higher and breaking this resistance zone. We're touching the 123. So again, it's possible we could pull back to the 100 and on a severe pullback even down into this 78.6 range before heading higher. But I think our target here would be, I'm still holding around the 480 to 490 zone for our short-term target, but I would wait for a pullback before getting back in. At least that's what I'm going to be doing. For crude oil, more selling pressure here. We did have a buying hammered candle here on Tuesday, it looks like, but that was followed through with some selling. I could see crude oil kind of hanging around the $70 region for the next week or so. It might bounce around between the moving averages, build a little bit of support, but we've got a lot of support coming through at the $70 area. So it might take a week or two to kind of let the selling pressure die down before taking a stab at running higher again. But I think in the short to medium term, oil does look good to still continue higher. For natural gas, we did have a rebound this week to kind of fill this gap that we had from the week before. But I think natural gas looks like it's ready to kind of roll back over and head back down towards a $3 mark. So we filled this gap from the week before, but now it looks like we have a gap here as well. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if natural gas kind of rolls over, fills this gap, comes back towards $3, maybe tests this 200 EMA, build a little bit of support here before heading higher. So we'll give it another week or two and see what natural gas looks like once it's had its chance to kind of consolidate and settle down a little bit. So now let's switch over to the indices. The S&P 500 sold off on Friday, but it still is holding above this breakout area where we broke out about 3 weeks ago now, it looks like. We went from a flagging pattern, broke out, and we're still kind of flagging on top of where we broke out a few weeks ago. I still hold that as long as the price kind of stays above these 50 and 100 EMAs, I think once the consolidation is done, price looks good to continue higher to some all-time highs, barring any crazy news or anything that could shock the markets and push it down. The Nasdaq looks like the same thing. We broke out of this flag pattern a couple weeks ago, and we've kind of been chopping sideways with a big selling candle on Friday. Kind of the same story as the S&P. As long as we can remain above, say, 21,000, around that level there, as long as we can remain above that, I think the Nasdaq looks good to head higher in the short to medium term. All right, for the Dow, it looks like we tried to retest our all-time highs end of last week. Couldn't quite make it there. We came back up and attempted another run at it towards the end of this week with selling pressure on Friday. It looks like the Dow wants to head lower. I wouldn't be surprised if we did come back down, maybe retest this support region that's coming up through here. We still have this gap down at the bottom here from the last time we tested the support region. So, the Dow could potentially come all the way back down to the 42,500 level to fill that gap before heading higher. So we'll just see what comes in the weeks ahead, see if this comes back down and retests some of this support that's coming up through here over the last couple of years. And for the Russell, kind of the same story. The other week we bounced from our support region off of the 200 EMA, bounced up, and then we've kind of just been chopping sideways over the last couple of weeks. Like the other indices, had a strong selling day on Friday. I would think price may come on back down and retest the 200 EMA again, as well as this support region. I'm going to go ahead and extend it out just so we can keep an eye on it. So in the next week or two, I wouldn't be surprised if the Russell did fall back down and retest these levels before stabilizing and heading higher. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. All right, and the last one here is Bitcoin. Like the indices, we've been selling off. Looks like we had a really big candle on Monday with a lot of buying stepping in here off of the 90,000 area. But then we continued to sell off the rest of the week. I'm going to go ahead and extend our support area here and this resistance zone that may become support now. Looks like we've kind of bounced along the resistance zone. So as long as price continues to hold above these areas, I think everything just needs to stabilize before Bitcoin continues higher. If we start breaking down below this 91.5, 92,000 area, somewhere in there, if we start breaking below this support zone, I would look for price to come on back down towards the 80,000, maybe even a little lower to fill this gap that we had at the end of 2024. So again, like everything else, we'll just have to wait and see how price reacts once it starts testing this zone here. But yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens there. And that's all I have for this week. I appreciate it if you tuned in. If you find value from these videos, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Please leave a comment if you have differing opinions or if you agree, let me know. I do check the comments every week, and I appreciate, anyone that's tuning in and interacting. But that's really all I have for this week, so we'll see you again next week. Thanks.